What's going on, guys? Ben here, Enos Tech, and today we're taking a look at the Cooler Master MasterCase Pro 5. Now, some of you may know that the MasterCases are Cooler Master's range of highly modular and efficient cases. The goal behind them is to be able to easily customize them and give modders and just general builders and those looking to build a new PC the easiest time possible with as many options as they can have to build their PC. Kicking things off, we can see on the front here we've got a little Cooler Master emblem down here. Got a nice mesh front, two 5.25-inch drive bays if you've got a reservoir for water cooling, or if you still use optical drives, they've got you covered. Behind this bottom mesh here, if we can go ahead and just, as you see, it a bit hard sitting down, but as you can see, it comes off pretty easily. And there are two, I would say, 140mm fans there, pre-installed, combined with the mesh. You know what I'm saying? It's a good amount of airflow. As you can see, you've got a little honeycomb look to the back of it there, hexagon type something or other. But yeah, remove this, of course, gives you access to the fans, so you can go ahead and swap them out for your own fans to do what you want. Water cooling radiator, if that's your type of thing, if that's what you're going for on your build. And then, as you can see, just pops back on. Again, as mentioned, this case is highly modular. Things come off, so Cooler Master did a great job at making it, hopefully trying to make it as suitable as they can for everyone. Alright, coming around to the side, and as we can see, it's a nice big plexiglass window for viewing. As you can see, it pretty much spans the whole side panel, and it gives a real good look at the components on the inside. One thing that we'll take a look at as well when we go to look inside the case is there's actually a black piece of plexiglass down here that covers up the bottom of the case where the power supply is. There's also a couple of extra drive bays there, but this is removed if you want to show these off. Now, Cooler Master's figuring that a lot of people will hide their some of their cables from their power supply, some of the slack left over a bit down there, so you may not want to show it off. But again, they've gone ahead and made it easily removable, so those looking to show off the bottom part of the case can do so as well. But yeah, again, it's got a nice tint to it, and as you can see, it really gives you a great look at the whole inside of the case. Onto the back of the case, we can see there's really not a whole lot going on here. We, of course, have the 1, 2, 3, 4 thumb screws, 2 for each side panel to pull those off. There are 4 more thumb screws down here around the power supply, and this is actually so you can take this piece off, mount it to your power supply, and then put the power supply in with the cables, and then you can just thumb screw it back into place. It makes things a bit easier if you have to keep taking it in and out, or so you don't have to keep getting the screwdriver out once it's set up. So you can see we've got the fairly generic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 PCI expansion slots. Of course, nice bit of vented area here to allow for a little bit extra airflow, because as we know, these cases can get hot. Cooler Master have done something nice as well. They've made the back fan, which comes pre-installed. It's compatible with both 140 and 120mm fans, and it's also got these big, I don't even know what you'd call them, big holes so you can screw them in, which actually allow you to slide the fan up and down in the case. So depending on the hardware you have, you can move it. Like obviously if you've got water cooling or something in there, you may want to slide it a bit down, but depending on what else you have, you may just want to slide it up a bit. I mean, the options there surely doesn't hurt anything, does it? So as you may have seen when we were taking a closer look at the front I/O panel is actually located on the top of the case. Now it's kind of the top, kind of the front. It's slanted a bit down, so it kind of classes as whatever you want to call it, really. As you'll notice, there are power and reset buttons, a pair of USB 3.0 ports, and there are also microphone and headphone inputs. So that way you don't have to keep reaching around to the back of your case trying to plug things into the motherboard. Just go ahead and plug these headers in. Boom, you're good. Everything's right from the front of the case. Make your life as easy as possible. Before we take a quick look inside the case and wrap up this video, we're going to end off with the top for the exterior. As you can see, there is a nice vented area, which is of course going to allow for the airflow to come through the front and up through the top. With most builds, most people will use this as an exhaust to go ahead and push the hot air up, because we all know heat rises, so it makes sense. Push it up and get it out. One of the great things about this is that the top is also easily removed as so. And as you can see, at least gives us access to an area where you can install two 120 or two 140 millimeter fans, or a 240, 280 millimeter radiator, depending on your need. And again, when it comes to the fans, there is a bit of room there to slide them back and forth if you've got the 120s in there or whatnot. As long as there's a little bit of extra room, you can slide them to maybe help knock a degree off your temp and get a little bit better cooling performance depending on how the airflow is moving throughout your case. Again, Cooler Master have tried to make it as modular as possible, and as you can see, that top just slides right off and comes off with no problems. It's much easier than the front, if nothing else. And again, it allows us access to a bit of extra cooling room. Alright, so before we have a look at the proper inside on the other side, the front side there, where all the fun is, I wanted to show you guys the cable management system that the Cooler Master MasterCase Pro 5 has available. Now, I was quite impressed with this because one of the things I first noticed is you'll see there are already some straps here to keep the pre-installed cables for the front header and such fans in place. What may be a bit hard to see is these are actually indented. A lot of times you'll have a place to hook some cables there, but it comes flat across with the motherboard tray. Cooler Master have gone and kind of indented it so the cables actually slot in there and fit in there. It should be level with the motherboard tray. Now, another thing I did is I, of course, measured the amount of space between the motherboard tray and where the side panel is going to go on, and you've got yourself around 2 centimeters or 20 millimeters of room there. Now, this is great. I've gone ahead and installed my 8-pin cable up through. It's pushed in there, and you can pretty much fit 2 of those side by side and still have a little bit of extra room in here without being able to see them. Another one of the great features that Cooler Master have included, when you get the case, there will be a nice little box in one of the 3.5-inch hard drives bays around the front side, which we'll take a look at in a minute. And while I know it's probably hard to see, there are, of course, all the accessories and screws, number of cable ties, and one of the things that I thought was great is they've gone ahead and included some fan splitters, connectors. What this does is it takes the 3-pin fans, which as you'll see here, I've left them unplugged. These are the 2 front fans here. Allows you to plug it into this and turn it into a Molex power connection, and it also gives you the option to daisy chain them together, so you only require one Molex power connection off of your power supply, and you can plug in all 3 of the fans that come pre-installed with the Cooler Master case. And of course, you can go ahead and use these on your own fans if you have 3-pin fans, to go ahead and convert them to some Molexes, because I know a lot of motherboards, even mine, it's an X99 board, I don't have a lot of fan headers, so stuff like that comes in big handy, especially when it's coming from the case manufacturer themselves. That's always great to see. But as mentioned, there is a bottom area here where the power supply and all the cables are nicely tucked out of the way. As you can see here, the power supply is back here. I've got the SATA power cables coming up here. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And it's not very messy. As you can see, there's plenty of room for cable management. One thing I did like is Cooler Master also included these little straps in the box. So you can see I went ahead and strapped this cable out the way. But for those of you that don't want to use one of these big plastic ones and you're going to have a more permanent build inside this case, there are a couple of places where you could go ahead and attach a zip tie in there and then go ahead and zip tie any cables you have coming up to the top corner there out of the way so they're not seen. Again, Cooler Master have done a great job of making cable management easy and efficient and allowing users to just have a generally clean and nice looking build. Alright. So here we have it, folks. We're going to work our way into the main part where all the components are. But first, I just wanted to show you guys again this black bar here on the side window. Now, of course, I've taken the side panel off, turned it around so we can get a look at it. As you'll see, there are a couple of little bendable clips in the way, and there are 2 screws, one on either side, that will allow you to remove this piece here and go ahead and you could either show off the underneath the case, or you could change it to a color, or some people might want to go ahead and modders and stuff may want to customize it, and they may want to cut out lettering or designs in there, throw some LEDs behind it, make it a little light box, give it a nice looking effect. I mean, the possibilities really are endless. I mean, and it's up to your own creativity what you want to do with it. Alright, so here we have it. We've got the inside of the case here, and as you can see, we're left with a nice clean looking build after all the great cable management options. As you can see, there are a pair of cutouts with grommets down here in the floor of the case to go ahead and allow for you to connect your VGAs, CPUs, your VGAs, GPUs, pardon me, or anything else you may have that wants to plug in to the bottom of the motherboard. There are plenty of things there. As you can see, we have two SSD mounting trays here. Now, what's quite unique about these that I thought is that you can either go ahead and mount the SSDs on the top if you want to show them off like I've done here. Big thanks to HyperX Fury for their nice SSDs. They look great in this case with the overall build. Or if you don't want to show them off, you can actually slot them under these little mounts here so you won't even see them. And then of course they plug into the back where there are a few cutouts behind them for the SATA cables and power cables to go and stuff. And I thought, when I first seen it, I was like, that's kind of unique, because obviously I like to look at things without trying to look at other people's reviews or read too much on them. When I first get my hands on a product, I like to see if I can try to figure out what the manufacturer was going for and have a nice play with it before I start looking into it. And when I first saw it, I was like, huh. I was like, you look at it, I was like, it looks like the size for an SSD, so I went ahead and sure enough, one slots in there perfectly. No need for any mounting or anything if you want to put your SSD in there. I mean, this comes in handy for those that, again, modders, customized builders, anything, or if you really just don't want to show your SSDs off, boom, you can put them in there and kind of hide them out the way. These mounts, of course, easily removed by a nice little thumb screw here. As with all the thumb screws on the case, you may require a screwdriver the first time you take it out, as of course they are in there pretty tight, but it's nothing major. As mentioned, there was that black box with the accessories coming in it. It comes in, well, on our case, it came in this 3.5-inch hard drive slot here. And this is another great feature that I like. There are two 3.5-inch hard drive slots, which of course you could fit 2.5 hard drives in, down here in the bottom. However, there's another cage for them up here that allows you to fit 3 more in. Now, both of these are actually removable. So if you just had no 3.5-inch hard drives or no use for them, or you didn't want to see them, you could of course take this case out and just leave them all down here. Now this would go ahead and open up some room for one of them tall reservoirs. Obviously it gives you a little bit more room in play with fans and things if you're going ahead trying to install a radiator and you want to get a push-pull configuration going on. And again, it's just, the options are endless. It depends on what you want to do with it, what you'll get out of it, and how that works. And it can also even be just moved down if you'd rather. So again, plenty of options. Take it out, move it down, leave it there as it is. It's totally up to you. Now, as you can see here, we've also got the 5.25-inch drive bays are toolless, which is always a great feature. It just makes life easy, simpler. These can also be removed. There are a couple screws in here on each side that you can take out, and you can get rid of that whole tray. So none of these bays need to be here if you don't want them. Again, moving around the rest of the case, we of course have a couple cutouts at the top, which I know is probably hard to see there. Again, to allow passing through with cables. So you're really left with the cleanest looking build you can have, because we all know in this day and age, clean builds are a must. Everybody's trying to show off their things, and I mean, especially if you spend hundreds of pounds, dollars, or whatever on a system, you might want to show it off. So companies are like Cooler Master taking great leaps into making sure that when you do show it off, you've got the best looking build possible. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I had a great time building in this case. As you can see, everything's easy. There's a spot for everything. You slot the PSU in, get the motherboard in. There's plenty enough grommets here to pass the cables through. Great little accessories bundles to go ahead and get the fans up, zip ties, different little things so you can go ahead and get the best cable management possible. And as you'll notice, you can't even really see this bar where the cables are slotted in on the back side. Although I said it indents around the cables, it's right here. You can't really notice it, but again, it does a great job at hiding the cables and giving you the best builds you can have. I'm going to go ahead, we're going to end this video here. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the written review on it, which I'll link down below when it's live, so make sure to check for that. Major thanks to Cooler Master here in the UK for sending in their MasterCase Pro 5 for me to have a look at and review. And yeah, as always, thank you guys for watching, and please stay tuned in the future for more content.